Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we take a look at the astrological energies from April 23rd until April 30th. What a week we have in store for us, and we've already been in it. So just know that as we move through the end of April, there are areas of your life that are going to intensify. The contentious energies are going to feel like they are increasing, and there is a purpose for this, and I'm going to be discussing it more in today's show. So we have a lot going on this week, including Venus making her exact conjunctions to Saturn and the North Node in Pisces, then re-entering Aries on April 30th. The Sun in Taurus makes a square to Pluto in Aquarius a few days before the exact Mars-Pluto opposition. Plus, we also have the Taurus New Moon occurring on April 27th. I will be discussing each of these transiting aspects more specifically in the podcast. But before we dive into that, I do want to discuss some recent events, which is the Pope dying as Saturn in Pisces is conjunct that North Node in Pisces. Saturn is the elder, the mentor, the father. Saturn represents authority figures who are in charge. And in Pisces, making that conjunction to the North Node, Pisces is associated with Christianity, Jesus, and the teachings of Jesus, including compassion, being of service, and unconditional love and acceptance. Pisces is represented by two fishes, one swimming up, one swimming down, to represent the ongoing energy exchange between the human and spiritual realms. And the fish is a strong symbol in Christianity. Saturn in Pisces signifies the completions that are meant to occur here in our practical lives and in our real world structures. It is one of the big themes of 2025, the ending of eras and important transitions, especially on a global level. Now, if you have listened to the podcast for a while, you may recall that back in January, I did a podcast episode for you discussing the nodes of fate in Pisces and Virgo. And we looked at how the last time Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node were all in Pisces was back in 1523, which is also when another pope had died. The spread of Christianity was unfolding through Martin Luther. There was an uprising through a peasants' war in Germany. And so we can see how astrology highlights the timing and cycles of events when we look at it through this historical lens. Now, of course, our consciousness is a bit different now than what it was in the 16th century, but it's clear that we are moving through significant upheavals and changeovers in all areas of our lives this year. That is something that we're going to continue to move through that will be destabilizing and shake up what we thought was certain and known. Now, these late degrees of Pisces are still going to be active this week as Venus will have an exact conjunction to that North Node in Pisces at 26 degrees. I'm referencing the true node. And then be exactly conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 27 degrees on April 25th. Keep in mind that Venus has been conjunct both Saturn and the North Node throughout most of April. So this energy's already been in play, but there could be a turning point that occurs when Venus is exactly conjunct. Now, how I've been feeling this is that we've had some deep rewiring in our hearts, reprogramming based on what those Pisces influences have brought to our attention. Pisces is about the cycles that are completing, what you're moving away from and transitioning out of. And so Venus has been in this very interesting energy that feel that it's taken you out of time and space and asked you to look at more of your heart experiences, self-worth and self-love energies that have traveled with you across multiple lifetimes and dimensions. I'm even seeing these energies go into other realms. And here she is floating around, yet also being tethered to that Saturn in Pisces that is grounding her and saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to choose that's for your best and highest good? which is the North Node in Pisces. So we are feeling perhaps that there's a lot shifting and changing within the heart space. And I am seeing it directly in the heart that starts with the self-love and self-acceptance energies that are being deeply reconfigured with your soul to clear out and close out what is done for you. And it's interesting because I feel that Saturn is holding a soul contract or multiple soul contracts, because it could be related to a theme. So not just a person or a situation or anything specific. It could be related to a certain theme that you realize was important to master in this lifetime. And as it's conjunct the North Node, it has a green stamp on it. Success, congratulations, great job, buy yourself a pretzel. Like there's big energy here around what Venus has been learning. And she's been learning it through the reality check of Saturn. And I feel that as she moves further away from the Saturn in Pisces, there is a lightening in the heart space. And I'm feeling that this directly relates to not only that self-love vibration, but then of course how that blasts out into all of your energy, your aura, the whole collective field. And I feel like this is where Venus is then going to attract and magnetize in new frequencies that are truer for her based on what she has completed and closed out. Because I'm actually feeling that this energy becomes very high vibrational. It feels like true love, passionate love, expanded creativity and self-expression, a rise in self-confidence and self-esteem. But it's not quite there yet because she re-enters Aries April 30th, which is that new spark of life, that powerful new intention to love herself and show up in a way that deeply honors who she is now. And then she's going to have a conjunction with Neptune in Aries at 1 degree on May 2nd. Now, this conjunction occurs for the first time ever in our lives, and it brings in a huge new spiritual awakening that also expands her, while I see downloading in more of her true spiritual essence. So we're not there yet. This is just a heads up on what is unfolding. And of course, if it resonates with you, great. And if it doesn't, don't force it. But Venus has been moving through a very big retrograde cycle that is meant to change us. It's meant to reprogram us with these higher frequencies. Because also how I'm seeing it is that she was holding density that was weighing her down. And I think I've described this before, I can't fully remember, but I'm seeing that density at like the bottom of the heart, but it's slowly been dissolving and lifting and clearing out because of the work she's been required to do. And that's been part of April. Part of checking in with yourself as Venus has been conjunct Saturn in the North Node. What do you really want? What have been your limitations or past influences that have prevented it? Where have you held yourself back in fully loving who you are, what you're about, and what you want to experience in this lifetime related to Venus? I do feel that this Venus has more prominence now in Taurus season because Taurus is ruled by Venus. So she's the ruling planet that has a louder voice and influence. So basically, the late degrees of Pisces are still significant over this next week. So pay attention to what those whispers are, downloads, what your intuition is bringing to your attention, where your energy is going and roaming, perhaps any dream messages or very clear meditation messages. You could even feel that it's so strong in your clairvoyance or claircognizance. There's these messages that maybe you can't escape right now, like you can't turn them off and you can't detach from them. They could even feel all-encompassing if the energies are very strong and powerful for you. Venus is being elevated, and it's perhaps even unexpected because this whole retrograde journey that she's been in has been something that she hasn't been able to plan. She's had to trust herself more, work with her intuition more, and be very honest with herself as well. So Venus re-enters Aries again April 30th. The last time she was here at 0 degrees of Aries was back in February 3rd. So take a look at what has changed for you February, March, and April around Venus themes: love, passion, creativity, self-expression, finances, money, relationships, partnerships, friendships, connections with women, personal confidence, personal self-acceptance. Again, this is a personal area of your chart in both Pisces and Aries, and it's also been a big deal since she's been interacting with the outer planets quite a bit. So yes, Venus is strong this week, but she's not the strongest influence because we have this Mars-Pluto opposition for the third time, and that story has already been in play as well. So we had the first Mars-Pluto opposition back in early November when Mars was at 29 degrees of Cancer and Pluto was at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And because of the Mars retrograde, we didn't just have this opposition once, but we've had it play out over the past 6 months. The second Mars-Pluto opposition happened at 1 degree of Leo, 1 degree of Aquarius in early January. And so here we're at the third and final opposition in the series, occurring at 3 degrees 48 minutes of Leo, 3 degrees 48 minutes of Aquarius. But we've got more going on in the story because the sun in Taurus is also involved in the dynamic, and so is Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. So this is creating a fixed grand cross. I did do a video for you on YouTube going through the chart and discussing it more. So please check that out. I'm not going to repeat myself too much with what I say in that video. But understand that there is a very intense need for change at this time, both collectively and individually, that is forcing each of us to understand where we need to make change. Now, what I'm feeling here around this particular opposition is that there is a locked in energy. It has tension, it's contentious, argumentative, and polarizing. The energy of Mars and Leo opposing Pluto and Aquarius is violent, destructive, dangerous. Then you add in the sun in Taurus, which wants to calm down the influences, diffuse anything before it escalates. But the sun in Taurus doesn't budge either. We're dealing with these fixed signs that each want to be in charge and have their own way. So we have a clash occurring in willpower. We have an escalation of energies since neither wants to compromise or back off. And what is happening here that I'm seeing energetically is a few things. So one of the visuals I got is that the intensity is creating a lot of tension and discomfort that perhaps you feel you're sitting in. This will apply to you more personally if you have planets or points between 0 and 4 degrees of the fixed signs. So 0 to 4 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius. You are sensing that something is deeply affecting you and you can't escape it. And the visual I got, and of course it's so random, was this visual of bathroom tiles that have been sprayed with foam cleanser, and the foam cleanser has to sit on the tile and the grout to do the deep cleansing work. And so that foam is just sitting there, intensifying the scum and dirt, which accentuates it and brings our attention to it. And the energy is locked in, very little movement, and is even making it feel more extreme. So, okay, there's one visual I got. Another visual I got here is that part of the reason why this intensification needs to occur, or rather why it's right on time, is because it's bringing us to a certain breaking point that is about breaking a pattern in ourselves that is no longer in alignment with where we need to go next. And it's requiring us to be very brutally honest with what aspects of self are not evolving, where we're holding ourselves back unknowingly or unconsciously. And the universe is saying, look, where you're going, these higher dimensions that are pouring into the planet and these galactic developments that are happening require you to let go go of parts of your human self that don't serve you for the long term. So take a good hard look at what that is and be powerful in claiming and understanding, I'm done with this. This is time to break a pattern, to be complete with a part of myself that isn't meant for the higher frequencies. Now, we are moving through a very intense galactic merging cycle, and the merging that's coming in is pushing out what is not effective, what isn't connected to our true, more expansive selves. And there's a lot of discomfort in that because it brings up things that we don't want to face, we don't want to look at, or we don't want to deal with at first, especially if you thought, oh, this has already worked for me. This has already been something I've counted on, or I didn't think this would change. Well, there is extreme energies here that are breaking down and collapsing what isn't really true for you for the long term. And so individually, when we claim that and work with that, we're in our power. We're able to look ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, I understand this is what I'm ready to shift and evolve away from, knowing that it's for the best and highest good for the long term. Again, this is working with people who have planets and points from 0 to 4 degrees of the fixed signs. So this might not resonate for you as much, but just note that it is bringing people to a breaking point that's about breaking a pattern. I also saw the energy as breaking circuitry. So if you think of the flow of circuitry, and I'm seeing it as electrical, there are circuit breaker energies here that are shutting off and shutting down what isn't transmuting the correct energies, the correct electrical frequencies. This could translate into some kind of grid shutdown or issues with electricity or circuits breaking. There could be some kind of technological situation or event that shows up with this energy. There could also be fire involved, where there is some kind of fire that starts that shuts down a system of some kind. Of course, we don't want that, but that's what is going on here, is that there is an extreme intensification that is also bringing up what is separate, what is polarizing and divisive. And you could also be feeling that in yourself. You could be feeling really angry and pissed off at something that is divisive or polarizing. There could be something coming up for you and you don't know what to do with it. Again, feeling stuck in the energy, stuck in the feelings. How do I move this? How do I move this out of me? Maybe you're upset at someone who is in a position of power. Let's say the CEO of the company or a higher up somewhere, and you can't reach them directly. So then what someone does is they turn around, they start a fight with the person in the cubicle next to them because this energy is so big that they have to let it out, but they can't direct it at the person they want to or at the powers that be. And I'm seeing this as the energy of uprising. It's that revolutionary energy that begins with grassroots efforts and with local protests or with something that is affecting a few people in a company, and then you realize a lot of people are on the same page as you. That's what this energy is about. It brings in the multiple people. It also is about adjusting the balances of power. Now, the Mars in Leo energy here is the weaker energy, and that's because Pluto in Aquarius is bringing up what we have cycled out of and what we are cycling out of. So a very clear example of that is celebrity culture. Leo is celebrity energy. There is no longer the desire of worshiping or idolizing certain people, and it's because they aren't perhaps authentic or they aren't in touch with what is going on for the masses. That energy is going to be increasing. And keep in mind that even though this is the third and final opposition between Mars and Pluto, Pluto is still going to have an opposition to the Sun in Leo in July. So this story isn't over. It's almost like there's more that gets brought to the surface and it continues to accelerate into 2025, but it will be louder this week, and that could stir up even more anger, polarization, and triggering developments. With the sun involved and with Black Moon Lilith involved, it brings up the worst. It could be that you're feeling a lot and you don't know what to do with it, and yet that sun in Taurus wants you to calm it down, take some deep breaths, focus on peace and what will be good for your energy at this time. I feel that this is going to be one of the best uses of the Taurus New Moon on April 27th, which I will get to here in just a moment. But this Mars and Pluto opposition is on April 26th at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And it could be clear to you, or at least more evident, of what is the old way. What is no longer true for you? What's no longer empowering, supportive, or uplifting? You might be in the midst of making a big life change, but it comes to a head over the weekend. It becomes bigger and more intense, and maybe there's a fight that breaks out. Like you try to approach something with someone to have a very calm discussion. No, this is not the energy for that. This is where it gets bigger faster. This is where there are more extremes involved. So it's really not the best weekend to have a conversation that's important to you. Rather, this is a good time to look at how are you growing right now that you can't deny. You can't deny it. You can't force it away. You can't overthink it. How are you powerfully shifting right now that the universe is saying, own this, own it, understand this is part of your evolution, and that you might feel like you're being pushed to choose yourself, choose a new dream or a new vision for your life. You could realize there's things here that you can't compromise. You can't keep doing something. Again, getting back to breaking the patterns. Where is the universe asking you to stand in your power, hold strong to your truth, and embrace what is calling to you now? And that's where, again, you could have the pushbacks. You could have people upset or angry. There's going to be breakups here, breakups in connections, in friendships, in businesses, breakups in partnerships, in all kinds of relationships, because each individual needs to choose what their higher path is at this time. And it's not meant to be ignored or compromised. But again, it could be really uncomfortable. Like you just have these realizations. You're like, wow, I see where this is going, or I see what path this is on, and I want a different path, or I want something else now. And you could be just as surprised about it yourself. But I feel that the universe is clearly communicating to us where there is a timeline collapse. A timeline collapse that you're feeling, and you're understanding, I've got to do this, or I've got to choose this, or I need to be in my power and stand strong in this, not back down, not push it away, whatever it might be for you. And so what you want to look at is where this Pluto in Aquarius is in your chart at 3 degrees 48 minutes of Aquarius, so between 3 and 4 degrees. This is where you are undergoing a very significant life change that will be unfolding into next year. This is the furthest Pluto has traveled in Aquarius. So these are new revelations and new understandings, but it requires you to face something. And of course, that can be a very deep fear, an intense feeling. Maybe you are shadow dancing with yourself or another, and you're working through some layers that Pluto in Aquarius is bringing up for you. And the intensity has increased to the point that you can't overlook it. So I'm getting a very interesting visual here where I'm seeing the split and the separateness within the human body. That part of the human experience is one of the full spectrum of emotions, from that deep fear to pure unconditional love. And that part of our experiences on the planet is to move between those and to have the experiences that our soul desires. And I'm seeing that what is coming up here in the polarization and the split is something that we've been embodying across many lifetimes, and we're meant to weave it together in a new way. We're meant to weave into wholeness by understanding where we're splitting internally. because you could have some overlapping influences from other lifetimes and timelines that are really loud right now. And they're loud because they're aspects of yourself that have come to the table to show you that you've had many diverse energy experiences. So what would be best for you now that actually resets you into wholeness and honors more of your soul's journey without separating yourself off for another or to your own detriment? And it's interesting because now I'm feeling more of these Venus energies come through, but she's not a part of the standoff, right? She's still in these late degrees of Pisces, working with Saturn in the North Node, tapping into your enlightened side, your enlightened heart. Oh, that's beautiful. Enlightened heart. I'm seeing it as very crystalline. Lemurian crystals and rose colors all blending together. And the enlightened heart is for yourself, choosing what you love, what you need, what is in alignment for you now. That also comes from a place of goodness. You know, we can hold goodness for ourselves and for another, even if the soul's paths are very different. We can still understand that this is for the good of all based on the soul's sovereignty and the soul's desire to choose their own adventure in this lifetime. So I feel that there's something really important now about that Venus energy and her wisdom coming forth that's right on time during this intense contentious energy. So the opposition is exact again. That is Saturday night, depending on your time zone, Saturday the 26th. So, maybe you stay home that night. Maybe it's not the best night to play with fire in public, but the higher message that's coming from these multidimensional frequencies is to open you up to a new dream, future, vision, and aspect of yourself, especially your future self, that is coming to your awareness because of the contentious energy. And so this is strong choice points here. This is saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to be involved in that. I'm not going to participate in that drama or that separatist aim. I don't want to be stretched and pulled into greater polarization with my fellow humans. I want us to go higher. I want to put this energy into a powerful development for New Earth consciousness. And I want to be a personal conduit of that consciousness. So use this tumultuous energy to guide you towards a consciousness rebirth and expansion that brings in greater clarity from the chaos. That would be the higher way of working with this, or one of the higher ways, I should say. Now, this axis of Leo and Aquarius is very creative. And if you were to intentionally allow your higher dimensional self to give you downloads and activations, that is also a strong potential now. Show me what I need to direct my energy towards. What's the best use of my creativity and my self-expression at this time? What can I move towards that is for my best and highest good and will take me further in my life that I could never have possibly imagined? So claim the power of these strong forces. Claim it in yourself, especially verbally, or write it down, and see yourself as a powerful creator in this intensity. Meaning, stay aware that you are here to harness this energy and that we aren't a victim and we aren't being overpowered unless we allow that to be a belief system that we accept. So what do you claim here that reinforces your creator instincts, your supreme wisdom, your desire perhaps to improve the planet, to connect with the new Earth growth trajectory, and anything else that calls to you? So at a very basic level, it's simply asking yourself, how do I use this for my best and highest good? And then see what downloads you get, what appears, and what inspires you. Now, right after this opposition is exact, we then have the Taurus New Moon on April 27th. It's at 7 degrees, 47 minutes of Taurus in your chart, so almost 8 degrees of Taurus, and it is exact at 3:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, a Taurus new moon is typically a time of calm, rest, peace, and stability. It's looking at what you need to gain strength in your foundation and in your needs. Taurus is where we start to understand what we want to build, and we have energy for it because it's important to us, relates to what we value and where we want to see our efforts pay off. Taurus is the first earth sign. It's fixed earth. And so if we are able to set ourselves on a clear intention here, a clear path, it will form into something that you value and love. And so this could be a beautifully timed reminder of how to be strong and calm internally, and to focus on that, to focus on what you can peacefully focus on that can reset your nervous system, calm down whatever has been triggered or inflamed from the opposition, and bring your energy back into peaceful harmony. I have a separate video for you on YouTube going through the chart of the Taurus New Moon as well. So please check that out on YouTube as I go into the energies more specifically, especially how it relates to this Mars-Pluto opposition. Then a few days after the new moon, Venus re-enters Aries on April 30th, as we discussed. And here we now have all of those retrograde personal planets re-entering fire signs. So that means we'll then have Mars in Leo, Mercury in Aries, and Venus in Aries, and you could feel like you're finally ready to get things moving, that there is more energy and support for that forward direction, but you have to acknowledge perhaps that you're changed. It's shifted. Your priorities look different now. What does call to you? What does give you life, as well as renewed confidence and greater action? So the personal planets are all back in fire signs after their respective individual retrogrades. They haven't all cleared their retrograde shadows just yet, but hopefully you're feeling like finally the energy is picking up and I can move again. And I'm excited around what the potentials are now. So the good news is that as we move into May, there is less intensity, less stagnation, and you might finally get to some of those goals and plans that you thought perhaps would start back in January of this year. But now that we've been through 3 personal retrograde planet cycles, the eclipses, and Neptune moving into Aries, you may also have a sense of what no longer matters to you, what has ended in your energy. Again, going back to timeline collapses, there's parts of ourselves that are dissolving away this year. And that could happen both slowly and quickly. It could be that you wake up and just realize, wow, I'm done with this. I don't want this anymore. I'm ready for the next thing. And it could even be happening in a few areas of your life. Now, I have the Nodes of Fate program where we discuss the North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. And it's interesting because this particular axis with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo signifies endings and completions in 2 areas of our lives simultaneously, and how they work together, how they are meant to free us to move us forward, but also affect our daily lifestyle, our jobs, what we have invested in, what we've put time and energy into, and yet it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Rather, the universe is saying it's time to change this up. It's time to shift this. So be sure to check out that program, especially if you have planets or points in Virgo, and or if you were born in the 1960s, because there are significant changes unfolding for you during this cycle. And the Nodes of Fate stay in Pisces and Virgo until July 2026. The Nodes of Fate spend 18 months in each sign. So I offer you a deep dive into what is changing in Virgo, for example, where to understand what is right on time and what you have to move away from, as well as the karma you have fulfilled in the Virgo areas of your chart. That's a biggie, especially because the Virgo energy will stay with something and be like, I haven't done enough. It's not good enough. It's not perfect enough. I could do more. And the universe is saying, time to go, time to move on. Draw drop your pencils, time is up. So I hope that program helps you in gaining clarity on how these energies are working with you personally, and especially as we move into September, when we will enter Virgo season and also have our next eclipses in Virgo and Pisces. So do check out that program. It's designed to help everyone, not just if you have planets or points in Pisces or Virgo. And then I also wanted to share with you that I have just started a Substack blog, and I've posted on there lesser known astrology topics. Now, these are some of the astrology topics I've done podcasts on, but here they are in written form because I know it can help to read and understand it more. So I'll put a link in the show description to the Substack posts if you like to read about these topics as well. So it's quite a week that we have here this last week in April, but I hope this gives you a good heads up on what to be aware of, how to be in your power, and how to be honest with yourself around what is breaking and collapsing, knowing that your future self is guiding you forward here into a new reality and new experience that will serve you better for the long term, especially as it aligns with the higher new earth frequencies and new dreams that are arriving. So overall, there are good things that will come from it, but be safe out there. It's a beautiful time to practice being in our enlightened heart and how deeply loved we are just being on the human journey at this time. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back for another episode every Monday and Wednesday, and you can also find more of my latest astrology courses and programs over at mollymccord.online. If you are looking to expand your own knowledge of your astrology chart and what you are here to experience in this lifetime. Wishing you a beautiful Taurus new moon, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.